In our headlines on this Tuesday afternoon, July 11th, here in South Korea. President Yoon Suk-yeol arrives in the host city of this year's NATO summit Monday evening for talks with the world's largest security alliance that begins on Tuesday for a two-day run. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong accuses U.S. Air Forces of violating North Korea's exclusive economic zone on several occasions Monday alone. Seoul's top diplomat Park Jin is in Indonesia this week to meet with his ASEAN counterparts and to partake in the ASEAN Plus 3 meeting, as well as the ASEAN Regional Forum. President Yoon Suk-yeol landed in Lithuania on Monday, a day ahead of the two-day NATO summit that will also include a host of bilateral exchanges with leaders in Europe, as well as from the broader Asia-Pacific on the sidelines. Our senior presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young files this report from the host city.
South Korea will upgrade its relations with the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance across 11 strategic areas as President Yoon Suk-yeol attends the two-day security summit in the Lithuanian capital. Yoon arrived in Vilnius on Monday, a day ahead of the summit, marking his second time attending the annual meeting, having become the first South Korean leader to participate last year. South Korea subsequently established a permanent mission to the 31-member alliance. At the Vilnius meeting, Seoul will look to adopt an individually tailored partnership program with NATO, elevating the bilateral cooperation arrangement they've had for the past 11 years to focus on 11 areas, including cybersecurity, non-proliferation and emerging technologies. The document will be adopted at a meeting between Yoon and NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg on Tuesday, according to a senior presidential official, who added that discussions would also cover ways to expand information sharing among NATO allies, including the United States. This comes as Yoon looks to promote greater Pacific Atlantic cooperation, with support and restoration efforts for Ukraine high on NATO's agenda, along with growing geopolitical and nuclear tensions across the globe. On that note, President Yoon will moderate a meeting with his counterparts from Japan, Australia and New Zealand on Wednesday, convening as NATO's 4 Asian-Pacific partners across the globe.
In addition to establishing a mutual partnership for a norm-based international order, the president will discuss with member states and partner countries how to respond to North Korea's nuclear missiles and emphasize the international community's resolute and united cooperation against North Korea's illegal activities.
In that regard, the South Korean leader has said there will be several opportunities for him to engage with President Joe Biden and touch on topics such as Washington's security commitment and the expansion of trilateral security cooperation with Japan. There's a chance that the two leaders could meet at a banquet event for NATO's partners on Tuesday evening. A separate meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is being arranged, with the agenda likely to include North Korea and Tokyo's plan to release Fukushima's wastewater into the ocean, which has been a bilateral sticking point. But first, Yoon will meet around 6 US lawmakers on Tuesday, including Pete Ricketts, and presumably discuss issues related to security and bilateral ties, according to a senior presidential official. The official added that Yoon will also sit down for bilaterals with leaders of various nations, including the Netherlands and Norway, as he spotlights supply chain security and Korea's bid to host the 2030 World Expo in the coastal city of Busan. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Vilnius.
And staying with NATO-related news, in a tangible shift in stance, Türkiye has shared intentions to place its weight behind Sweden's bid to join the world's largest security alliance. Our Isingja has the latest.
According to NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg on Monday, Türkiye has agreed to back Sweden's bid to join the NATO military alliance.
I have just had a constructive meeting with President Erdogan and Prime Minister Kristersson. I'm glad to announce that as a result, President Erdogan has agreed to forward the accession protocol for Sweden to the Grand National Assembly as soon as possible, and work closely with the Assembly to ensure ratification.
The announcement came after Stoltenberg held talks with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson in Lithuania. The decision on Sweden's NATO bid comes despite Erdogan insisting on Monday that Sweden should be considered for the military alliance after Turkey joins the European Union. Despite the support from Turkey, Stoltenberg said this does not mean Sweden will immediately become the next member of the alliance and refrained from giving a specific timeline for membership.
I will not give you exact dates for that, but this is a clear commitment, and the President has made it clear that it will happen as soon as possible.
Ultimately, Erdogan's decision marked a significant U-turn from a previous firm stance against Sweden's attempts to join. Turkey had mainly opposed Sweden's NATO membership due to claims that the Nordic nation allows members of recognized Kurdish terror groups to operate in the country, most notably the militant Kurdistan Workers' Party. It also recently accused Sweden of allowing Islamophobic demonstrations, such as the burning of the Quran. Despite this, the NATO chief said the two sides had worked closely together to address Turkey's legitimate security concerns, leading to the breakthrough. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
North Korea has made yet another allegation of American intrusion into its territory. Tuesday's allegation was made by Kim Yo-jong, who claimed U.S. Air Forces had violated North Korea's exclusive economic zone. Our Song Yoo-jin reports.
For the second straight day, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong has threatened that there will be consequences for the U.S. sending spy planes over Pyongyang's exclusive economic zone. In a statement carried by the North state-run Korean Central News Agency on Tuesday, Kim claimed that a U.S. spy plane entered the regime's EEZ 8 times on Monday. She added that if the U.S. continues such actions, its military will experience, quote, a very risky flight. This comes after Kim alleged Monday evening that the North's warplanes repelled a U.S. spy plane that flew over its EEZ, calling it a grave violation of the regime's sovereignty and security. Earlier in the day, the North's defense ministry released a statement which seemed to imply that the spy planes intruded into the regime's territorial airspace, saying that the planes flew into its inviolable airspace. Territorial airspace extends 12 nautical miles from the coast, whereas the EEZ extends 200 miles and is not considered a country's airspace under international law. In response, the U.S. State Department urged Pyongyang to refrain from escalating tensions and reiterated that Washington is open to dialogue. When talking about Kim's remarks, Pentagon Deputy Spokesperson Sabrina Singh said that Washington remains committed to safely and responsibly flying, sailing, and operating anywhere that international law allows. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff also responded.
U.S. air surveillance assets conduct routine reconnaissance flights around the Korean peninsula, and North Korea's claim of airspace violation is not true. We strongly urge the North to immediately stop creating tension with these false claims.
Experts say such actions could be a way for the North to justify its future provocations, which could take place sometime before or after a major military parade planned for July 27th, known as Victory Day in the regime. Another possible reason could be the first nuclear consultative group meeting between South Korea and the U.S. that'll take place in Seoul next Tuesday. The group, which was launched during President Yoon Suk-yeol's state visit to the U.S. in April, will discuss information sharing, consultation mechanisms, joint planning, and execution to increase nuclear deterrence against North Korea. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Officials of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations are gathered in Indonesia today for talks on regional concerns that will be followed by expanded dialogue on security matters under the framework of the ASEAN Regional Forum on Friday. Foreign Minister Pak Jin will begin his agenda in Jakarta on Wednesday. Our Ian Jin reports.
The ASEAN senior officials meeting convened on Tuesday with senior officials from the 10 ASEAN countries and Timor-Leste in attendance ahead of the 56th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. High on the agenda for Southeast Asia's top diplomats will be the crisis in Myanmar and the tensions in the South China Sea, with Japan's planned release of treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant also set to be discussed. While South Korea has expressed that it respects the recent report from the IAEA, China is continuing its opposition, with a meeting arranged where Beijing will urge ASEAN members to put pressure on Tokyo to halt the water discharge plan. South Korean Foreign Minister Pak Jin is also set to attend the meeting from Wednesday and will take part in a number of sideline meetings. He's scheduled to join the South Korean ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting and the ASEAN +3 meeting on Thursday, and will take part in the East Asia Summit meeting and the ASEAN Regional Forum on Friday. In between the sessions, Park could potentially hold separate bilateral talks with his Japanese and Chinese counterparts, where Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi may explain to Park the findings of the IAEA's report on Tokyo's plan to discharge contaminated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant, with South Korea also presenting its own assessment of the discharge plan. 이은진, Arirang News.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says she made it clear to Beijing that Washington will not back down from protecting its national security. Speaking on a Marketplace podcast on Monday, Yellen pointed to Beijing's own export controls on essential chip-making materials, similar to Washington's earlier curbs, underscoring the two countries' priority on national interest and security. When asked about China's response to her latest remarks, she said concern was voiced about an economic competition, one that may extend beyond national security. To this concern, she reportedly explained that U.S. export controls are aimed at diversifying supply chains and not to secure unfair leverage. Korea's exports during the first 10 days of this month fell on year amid shrinking shipments of semiconductors and overall shipments to neighboring China. According to the Korea Customs Service on this Tuesday, the value of exports dropped 14.8% on year to $13.2 billion. Exports of chips plunged some 37% on year. By destination, exports to Korea's largest trading partner, China, tumbled 20.6% on year. Accordingly, Korea's trade deficit stands at $28.7 billion thus far this year. Korea's fiction-related web content industry has sealed an export deal worth some $5.3 million with a number of Europe-based companies. According to the Korea Creative Content Agency, 15 domestic firms were in Paris last week to partake in the 2023 K-Story and Comics in Europe. The event sought to promote Korean web-based content, including novels, comics, and games. More than 300 business counseling sessions took place during the four-day event, and several contracts were signed to export Korean web-based content to firms in European countries, including France and Spain. A similar event will be held in North America and Germany later this year. The government has approved a revision to the TV license fee collection method. Accordingly, the mandatory fee of 2,500 won, or around $2 per month, will not be collected automatically through electricity bills. Presiding over a cabinet meeting on this Tuesday, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo said this change in the 29-year-old policy will help citizens be more aware of what they're paying for. The license fee collected is distributed mainly to KBS, the nation's main public broadcaster, with a small portion going to the Educational Broadcasting System, or EBS. President Yoon Suk-yeol is expected to put the law into effect immediately by signing it electronically, as he is currently overseas. The government is finalizing a new collection system to start as soon as possible. Korea is sharing its rice production technology with its counterparts in Africa as part of broader efforts to bolster the continent's food self-sufficiency. Our Lee Soo-jin has details.
South Korea is accelerating efforts to expand its K-Ricebelt project. The nation signed MOUs on Monday with 8 African countries to establish rice cultivation facilities and provide the necessary infrastructure to meet growing demand on the continent. The K-Ricebelt project seeks to produce 10,000 tons of rice seeds each year starting in 2027 in the 8 African nations. That's expected to supply enough rice for around 30 million people. The participating countries are Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Gambia, Senegal, Cameroon, Uganda, and Kenya. But other nations are also welcome to participate, as South Korea is ready to share its experience of going from an aid recipient to an aid donor with more countries.
We would like to see all 23 countries in Africa that we're currently working with participate in the program, as we want to contribute to helping Africa overcome its food crisis based on our own experiences.
The project is especially meaningful because the K-Ricebelt project contributes to South Korea's sustainable development goals.
We're trying to solve famine in Africa. As such, this is ultimately contributing to sustainable agriculture as well as the UN SDGs.
Rice consumption in sub-Saharan Africa has been increasing by 6% each year. But because most African countries have not yet achieved rice self-sufficiency, regional output covers only 60% of the demand, making them more vulnerable to food insecurity. We sat down with the Republic of Guinea's Minister of Agriculture and Livestock to ask him what the K-Ricebelt project means to his country.
Thanks to the relationship with South Korea, which can allow us to increase rice productivity so that we can move from 1.5 tons per hectare to at least 5 to 6 tons per hectare.
He's also not too concerned about the challenges that may arise because of the way the K-Ricebelt has been designed.
Not just a financing support, it's also a technical support. It's also a technological transfer project.
He said that's why he believes that this will have a huge impact on Guinea. He added that he, along with the other ministers, will be visiting Korea's rice production and farming equipment facilities during their visit. 이수진, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, a state-run center that offers support for settlement into South Korea for North Korean defectors marked its 24th anniversary back on Monday, with the Unification Ministry here highlighting the importance of fostering a social environment of greater acceptance. Our ministry correspondent Kim Mo-kyun has more.
From now on, the government will establish a system that supports the needs of the defectors and also work to create a social environment that embraces defectors from North Korea.
That's what South Korea's Unification Minister said during his opening remarks to celebrate the 24th anniversary of the establishment of Hanawon on Monday. In order for the government to successfully reach such a goal, Kwon stressed the need for Korean citizens' perception of defectors to be more positive and open. Hanawon, located in Ansong, southeast of Seoul, is a state-run facility that since 1999 has provided a 12-week resettlement education program for new defectors from North Korea. It helps defectors protect their identity, trains them to get used to South Korean society, and supports them financially so that they can be taught how to make a living for themselves. But recent data from the ministry show that the number of defectors dropped significantly from around 3,000 in 2010 to 1,000 in 2012 when Kim Jong-un took power. The figure declined even more rapidly with the impact of COVID-19 reaching only 67 in 2022. According to one female defector who spoke on condition of anonymity, she lived a difficult life in the border area between the two Koreas, and COVID-19 made things even worse, so she decided to come to South Korea with the hope of living a life in a country where human rights were guaranteed.
We learned a lot about South Korea through the inflow of Korean dramas. What motivated me to come is the fact that there's hope for one person to live a better life if one strives for it here.
Other defectors also expressed gratitude to Hanawon for giving them autonomy to choose their own life options. They say the institute carries a lot of significance, as the training that they received there gave them the opportunity to think about what they wanted to do with their lives in the future. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In Russia, the Kremlin says that President Vladimir Putin met with mercenary Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin 5 days after Prigozhin's failed mutiny in June. According to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, 35 of the group's commanders, including Prigozhin, were invited to a 3-hour meeting with Putin in Moscow. There, the Russian leader gave an assessment of the Wagner Group's Ukraine war effort and the mutiny, and suggested ways the group could be used for future combat. Prigozhin also reportedly told Putin that the mercenary group supports the president unconditionally. Currently, Prigozhin's whereabouts are unknown. He was offered a move to Belarus and for charges against him to be dropped in exchange for ending the mutiny. In Europe, nearly 62,000 people died last summer from heat-related deaths. The numbers were published in the science journal Nature Medicine on Monday. The deaths were recorded between May 30th and September 4th, 2022, during what was the continent's hottest summer on record. The country hardest hit was Italy, with 18,000 fatalities, followed by Spain with 11,000 deaths and Germany with 8,000 deaths. The study also found that the heat-related mortality rate was 63% higher in women than men, and those aged over 65 were more likely to die from the heat. The death toll comes amid increasing European temperatures that have risen almost twice as fast as the global average. Residents in South Africa's eastern city of Johannesburg woke up to surprise snow on Monday. It was the first time snow fell in the country's largest city since 2012 and came on the back of extremely cold and wet conditions still ongoing throughout most of the country. According to the South African Weather Service, Johannesburg recorded its coldest day of the year on the same day at -3 degrees Celsius. While certain mountainous parts of South Africa do see occasional snowfall, it's a sight rarely seen in the country's major cities. Although the snow caused no major issues for the region, the Weather Service has issued a warning for potential disruptive snowfall in the southeast KwaZulu-Natal province, including icy roads and traffic disruptions. And finally, the Netherlands has officially handed back hundreds of cultural artifacts it took from Indonesia during colonial times. They were returned during a ceremony on Monday at the Museum Volkenkunde in Leiden. The items range from 13th century temple carvings to jewelry and small statues. The return follows an announcement by the Dutch government to return looted items from both Indonesia as well as Sri Lanka. It's also considering returning some artifacts to Nigeria. Other European nations have also made plans to return items taken during their colonial periods. In January, a museum in Berlin announced plans to return hundreds of human skulls to former East African colonies. And Belgium last year returned a gold-capped tooth that belonged to Congolese independence hero Patrice Lumumba. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The rainy season is in full swing, and until tomorrow, Chungcheongdo and Jeollado provinces could see up to 150 millimeters. Central regions could receive more than 120 millimeters. Rain will pick up in the afternoon, accompanied by strong gusts of wind. And when it starts to rain, it could pour down 30 to 60 millimeters an hour, so please stay alert and safe. Such conditions mean landslides are a possibility. Along with showers, heat relief is expected today, but heat advisories remain in place for most of the southern provinces. Now, Jeju Island saw a record high of 37.3 degrees yesterday, the fourth highest temperatures recorded since 1923. But there is a slight relief this afternoon. It's Chobok today, the beginning of some of the most sizzling days of the year in Korea, and we need to brace for sweltering heat day and night for about a month now. Expect to see rain for the rest of the week, featuring an abundance of humidity. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the headlines at this hour, but do stay with us for our panel session on K-pop today coming up next. Thank you for now.
해서이에게 음악은 즐거움?
특정하기가 좀 어려운 것 같아요. 그러니까 그냥 자연스럽게 들이마시고 내뱉고 하는 공기 같은 거라고 생각합니다.
Contour the world, simply contour. India, the United Kingdom, New Zealand. Woo!
I'm excited. You excited?
Of course.
Yeah.
Music, start.
K-animation, loved and watched around the world. We want to make more animations to reach more children. Traveling time and space. Developing adventure and curiosity. Infinite creativity and hope. We want our children to grow up to be happy. K-animation, watched by children all around the world. So that joy can be felt when our animation is watched. This is the reason we make animation and share with the world. K-animation, befriending children all over the world.
Welcome.
엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
A number of K-pop acts are scheduled to return to the stage this summer, much to the delight of fans here and elsewhere. So what has been the public response to Super Shy by New Jeans? And which third-generation K-pop boy bands are staging comebacks? Also, how is BTS member Jungkook planning his solo return to the global stage? Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today we delve into the latest in the world of K-pop with a K-pop columnist from US music magazine Billboard. Jeff Benjamin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me in person.
I know, finally we meet. Right?
Yes, great
Jeff,
to see you.
We have a number of epic K-pop comebacks lined up this summer. First of all, do you suppose these comebacks have been deliberately scheduled for this particular season?
Yeah, that's a great question because, you know, summertime, it's good vibes, it's good feelings. Everyone, you know, has a bit more of a relaxed feeling to them. But I think, especially to kids and younger fans, they have a bit more free time. They're not so occupied with school and studies. So there's definitely, I think, this idea of that, more fans are available, more fans can come out to see live performances, come out to see them in the studios. And, naturally, everyone always kind of wants that song of the summer. Billboard historically has even had a chart, the Song of the Summer chart, where they take, the months of the summer and calculate what songs have defined each summer every year. So it's a really fun battle to kind of see, between artists who really gets to take that crowning moment to say, we had the Song of the Summer, who's the summer queen, summer king, things like that. It's just it's a good time overall to release music, and just a good time in general, even though Seoul is very hot right now, I have to say.
Right, it really is, I have to agree. Jeff, K-pop girl group New Jeans is returning this month as well, and they pre-released that is, one of its triple title tracks called Super Shy. What has been the response thus far?
Yeah, New Jeans, once again, I think, hit it right on the target. Something that I really, really love about New Jeans is that it tends to be about the music first with them. When they debuted, it wasn't sort of a lot of teasers, a lot of hype. They came out right out the gate with their first single, first music video, and allowed people to really let the music, let the artists, let the visuals all wash over them sort of at the same time in this really refreshing way. And Super Shy, I think, is just another great example of this. It once again kind of takes that New Jersey club beat sound that we sort of heard in OMG in their previous single, and kind of bring it to, I think, a little more of a fun, peppy style with this. It's really, it's got sort of a nice softness to it, I would say. And the music video, which we're watching right now, is super, super fun. I think they look amazing with the blonde hairs that they are showing there. So I just think, they've nailed it once again, and there's a lot more fun also to be seen from New Jeans as this EP comes about.
Right. And speaking about New Jeans, Jeff, how do you explain its remarkable popularity?
I think, New Jeans, going back to this idea, right, that it's music first, I think New Jeans, the way that they've put out music and the way that they've sort of entered the industry is very much catered to kind of how people listen to music these days in terms of the younger generation. Very much going onto streaming platforms and hearing something that really sounds like something you'd want to listen to or fits easily into a playlist. New Jeans music is very much defined as easy listening. I see that keyword around them a lot of times. So I think, New Jeans focusing on the music and looking at what is trending sort of digitally, especially with younger generations. The New Jersey club beat sound that we were talking about is something that's been going very viral in terms of, viral songs or things on TikTok, remixes, things that I think a lot of cutting edge and young people are listening to that hasn't hit the mainstream in that way. But New Jeans definitely, with their great visuals, with their great choreographies, great vocals, kind of makes it very, very appealing in that way. So I think you take all those combinations and they're sort of setting this sort of new generation of listenership, in my opinion. And I think that's why we've been able to see them not necessarily chart on charts like the Billboard Hot 100 from their first weeks, but they tend to chart on their third or fourth or fifth week because they've sort of gained listeners as it went on. It wasn't just about making the initial impact and, hoping to stay at the top of the chart. They've sort of grown and let audiences grow with them. So I'm really excited to see how this one grows.
And this is an impromptu question, Jeff. What are the chances of its song, Super Shy, becoming a summer favorite, do you think?
Ooh, I think good chances. I mean, the Korean charts are already loving it. I've seen really good action on streaming services globally as well. I think there's a good chance it's going to enter the Hot 100 in the US next week. We're definitely going to see it do really well on the global charts. So, definitely New Jeans fans should look out for that.
Right. Jeff, third generation K-pop boy bands like EXO are staging comebacks as well. And before I ask you my question on that particular group, have you seen EXO's new track, Cream Soda?
Yeah, of course.
What do you think?
Oh, I love that they're in this moment of really just showing that we are our vocal kings. Like, I always thought EXO had really, really great vocals, some of the strongest vocals, of their generation in K-pop. And this song all the songs actually that they've released so far in preparation for this album have really gone back to those sort of R&B sentiments, really strong vocals that we've seen. Cream Soda, the new single, is super, super colorful and fun and catchy. So they were able to kind of bring those big vocal moments, but still really show something that kind of defines K-pop in that way as well. So I'm a fan.
and along with EXO, Jeff, which other third-generation boy band should we be keeping our eyes on?
You know, it's been so fun. There's been so many like fun comebacks recently of this generation. I was talking to a friend the other day. It's like reminds us of a time when we got, you know, first introduced to K-pop as it was growing internationally.
And when were you first introduced to K-pop, Jeff?
Ooh, when was I? I think it was 2008 is when I really kind of heard my first K-pop group, thanks to YouTube and things like that.
Do you remember what group that was?
I do. It was After School. If you remember, they were kind of, I guess that would be second generation K-pop, but you know, they just blew my mind in the sense that I remember hearing Because of You, No Temune, and it was a song that starts as a ballad, but kind of becomes a bit of a dance track, got some hip hop, got auto-tune, whispering, big belting, all these things that I just had never heard in pop music in the West before, and so it like blew my mind because I love all those different kinds of sounds in general, but also, you know, writers and critics who I followed, they were getting really excited about it too. So it sort of all came together quite nicely for me.
And along with After School then, third generation boy bands, any groups that you particularly like, with the exception of EXO then?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's you know, 17 is someone who you should always be looking out for. They've already, you know, the guys were hinting at it here and there, but they've already confirmed in this Billboard article we did that they're going to make a comeback later this year. But after having just mega success with their recent album FML, but recent groups, kind of the more I would call classic groups like Teen Top or U-Kiss have also made comebacks recently, and it's just really refreshing to see these guys still killing it, still doing great. Infinite, another favorite of mine from that sort of time and generation, is also making their comeback, I think after, oh my gosh, it might have been like 10 years or something. So they're, or maybe 15 at this point, but it's been really fun to kind of see these boy bands just, you know, take it and you know, come back in really strong ways, even, you know, proving that military service, whatever it might be, these things didn't need to necessarily slow them down.
Right, good to know. Jeff, BTS member Jungkook is slated to return to the stage on the 14th of this month, am I right?
Yes, it's
what
this
can
week.
We expect?
Yeah, well, this song I am super excited about. You know, it's not my place to say anything. That's on Jungkook and his team, but I think we're really in for a surprise, a really big shock, and I think he's really going to prove just how much of a global star I think Jungkook really is. You know, every single he's done, he's always really made sure to make it a large moment, whether that was his song Left and Right with Charlie Puth, someone he looks up to entirely, and he got to collaborate with his idol, became a huge radio single in America, or doing the Dreamers soundtrack, which was for the soundtrack of the Qatar World Cup, or even just a soundtrack single that he did that was produced by his band member Suga. Jungkook really knows how to take a single and really get the world to talk about it, so I just really can't wait for this one to come out, and I think we're going to see some really good chart action from him as well.
He's planning to return in the US, right? With the show there.
Yes, I've heard he's making his way, so hopefully we'll see him soon. Now, but now I'm in Korea and he's in New York, so.
Right. Jeff, in recent times we've seen the birth of K-pop groups with all foreign members. Now, are we looking at the start of a fresh chapter in the genre of K-pop? And if that is the case, what look to be its broader implications, if I may?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and a question that's sort of been discussed through, you know, different lenses for a while. I think at first this idea of K-pop groups without Korean members were kind of being crafted in a way that didn't take into consideration the Korean industry or the training or the ways that the music itself is even released. But these days we're seeing groups like Black Swan, who I see on the screen, who are definitely, you know, singing in Korean, who are crafted and sort of managed by a Korean company for sure, and definitely play into that K-pop system, as it were, because I don't think that you can really be able to create something and call it K-pop if you don't sort of fall into the parts of the industry that define K-pop. I've always said K-pop doesn't really define itself by one sound or one type of music style, like you might think of rock music or hip-hop music, but I'd say it's more defined by the style and the way the music is released and the way the music and the artists sort of interact and are prepared with one another and things like that.
So there is a collection of elements that need to come together.
Yes, and I actually quite like this Black Swan song a lot. I think it's really done well, and the members look amazing, and they're even singing in Korean for quite a bit, so it's quite awesome to see.
I know, and they have great pronunciation, better than mine, if I may say so. Jeff, some have taken issue with the absence of Koreans within a K-pop group, and what are your thoughts on this? It's a sensitive issue, I understand.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's sensitive, and it's interesting too, because you look at the Korean companies that are sort of pushing this idea, right? So we're seeing, you know, some of the biggest record labels put out, whether it's an American group, whether it's a Japanese-based group, a Chinese-based group, and there's this really interesting conversation happening on, you know, is it K-pop, is it J-pop, is it C-pop, whatever, you know, you want to call it. So there's this really interesting conversation going on, and I think, you know, again, if you go back to those elements of what defines K-pop and how do you define it, I think we will see that those elements and that sort of what I would call like that Korean way of working and that hard work and that dedication that's always there, I think that will still be present in these groups, no matter where, you know, they might be based or whatever it might be.
And regardless of the nationality of the members then?
I guess so. You know, I think, of course, K-pop stands for, you know, the K stands for Korean, but I think, you know, time will tell if these groups are going to ultimately be successful or not. And I think especially the fact that you are seeing large companies like HYBE and JYP and SM Entertainment actively, you know, creating groups where there isn't a Korean-based member, I think is really telling of where these industry leaders see the industry going, and it'll be curious to see if fans ultimately accept that or not.
Right, I'll have to agree. You mentioned JYP. The entertainment company has a joint project in the US.
Yes.
They're seeking to, it's called the A2K, I believe.
A2K, America to Korea.
Right, and they're seeking to chronicle the creation of an American girl group using the K-pop manual.
Exactly.
What are your prospects, and what do you think about this project in general?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I'm really, really excited for, I've been actually really excited for this, because even like first hearing it, you know, JYP, Mr. JYP himself, JY Park, I think he's, you know, has a brilliant mind, a great way of thinking about music, and even his company recently has expanded with local groups in Japan and China, but I think this kind of is almost a full circle for him in a way. You know, we all definitely remember Wonder Girls, one of his first girl groups, coming to the U.S., definitely trying to, you know, make and break it into America. But this is sort of, instead of trying to fit, I think, the Korean groups into the American system by, you know, having them sing in English or having them, you know, need to do that work there, this is almost starting from ground zero with a U.S. partner in Republic Records, which is the biggest record label in America right now. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting to kind of see how the process goes. Again, it's an American group, you know, these are Americans, but done through the K-pop styling and system. So I'm going to be really, really curious to see how it goes. I'm excited for the premiere. During the series, you might see a familiar face on the show. So I really am looking forward to it. And I've been able to watch the process personally since they had auditions in New York to the boot camp in LA.
What were the auditions like?
Very, very interesting, and just the range of talent that comes out. You know, things that you can kind of see in the teaser that's been out already. But it's not that there's one look or one style or one type of person that came to these auditions. There is some beautiful diversity in terms of age, range, skin color, background, where they come from, what their story is, and getting to know, and watch these contestants has really been quite a blessing to me, and I'm so curious to kind of see what everyone else seems to think when the A2K girls officially hit your screens.
Right, and I'm so envious, Jeff. Staying with JYP, 3 years ago, I think it was about 3 years ago, the entertainment company set up a group called NITU in Japan, and the group itself is poised to share, I believe, its second album called Coconut.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this particular endeavor?
Yeah, this is, again, going to this idea of sort of, taking this K-pop system and being able to see if it can work, in different localized markets. That JYP show in particular, I believe Mizu Project, was shown in Japan during the pandemic. People were, stuck at home. They fell in love with these girls naturally. I think JYP really knows how to make a good reality show. Reality shows are what created Twice and Stray Kids and other groups, including NiziU. So it's been really, really fun to watch that successfully happen, because these girls, if you watch them perform, they are, right on point and fully visual in terms of the K-pop experience. But, it just sounds a bit differently because it's in Japanese. Even if it might have that K-pop shine to it, it is technically, J-pop. So it's been really fun to kind of see NiziU not only toe the line in terms of J-pop and K-pop, because they have also released music in Korean, but it's been cool to see sort of that JYP style specifically enter a different country and almost become localized in that way.
Right, and speaking about that, Jeff, broadly speaking, how do you respond to efforts by K-pop to localize its appeal to better cater to global fans?
It's a tricky question, and something that, I am encouraging of it as long as you don't lose sight of the bigger picture. I think so many times, especially in the earlier days of K-pop's crossover, we saw so many artists, I felt like, kind of losing their identity a bit and feeling like they needed to change up their sound or change up their image to specifically fit the US whatever it is, and I'll, and it's not just on one side. I've even seen U.S. labels talk about how they're going to change, the K-pop artists, and they're going to offer them these things and want to. So I think it's just been a process to sort of figure things out. What I think, though, is that fans ultimately see through, they see past language, they see past, any types of business tricks or industry plays. I think if you have music and you have a message and you have a vision that really connects, it doesn't quite matter, you don't need to release it in English, you don't need to release it in a certain language. I think the message will be found, no matter what. And someone like BTS, proved that, I think, tenfold, 100-fold, just everything they've been able to do on their own, and in particular by specifically sticking to a really strong vision, really strong point of view, and doing it in whatever language they kind of wanted to as well.
Right,
So.
a valid point, Jeff. Jeff, K-pop, it's dominated by large labels. I'm sure you'll agree, big name labels right there. But in recent times, we've been hearing about these smaller companies beating the odds. And I suppose one remarkable group should be 50/50. Could you tell us a bit more about this group?
Oh, yeah, no, 50/50, a group I had been watching, or I'd been hearing about, actually, even before they had debuted. A good friend of mine was working on the A&R for them. And just very much, I really even liked the name 50/50, kind of like Blackpink's name evokes a certain image. But 50/50, it can kind of be like, go 50 one way, 50 the other way, half and half. Kind of get this dual feeling from it. So 50/50, I think we're always trying to show this, give people options when it came to their music. And this came about specifically with their latest single, Cupid, which had a huge viral moment in terms of being able to be seen on social networks, especially TikTok and Instagram. And they had a Korean version and an English version of the song. And what I think was really, really great about this group and kind of what this team did with this song is that they didn't allow the viral moments and the sort of organic interest it was getting to be gone to waste. I've almost been like banging my head against the wall sometimes with certain K-pop groups because you see maybe not even the title track single, or it might just be an older song that sort of gets popular online. And I'm talking about the biggest labels in Korea, but not truly embracing it. In the U.S., if you have like a song that starts breaking out on TikTok, they change everything and the plans go all into this song. So it was very, very cool to see 50/50 really embrace this moment, lean into things like TikTok. I remember telling my A&R friend, you have to release the sped up version, an official version of the sped up version, because it was a sped up remix that was actually trending on social networks, but it was just fan made and no one was getting credit or getting chart points for that remix. So the fact that they set up that official remix, they teamed with Warner Music Korea, they were able to sign a US deal. All these things really allowed this group to truly, truly thrive in that way. And I think it became because they had a really smart social and digital strategy.
Right, and hopefully that will be maintained then. Yeah. Jeff, speaking about success, the question now, because we understand about the success factors with regard to K-pop, so the question now is how to sustain this success and how to perhaps let it grow further. What are your thoughts? Yeah,
I think these K-pop groups and these K-pop companies, they know what they're doing. There is no doubt that they've created incredible products, incredible music, incredible artists. All of these things are what has captured the world, right? But I think at some point, naturally, there needs to be ways to kind of keep the story going. And, you and I, as storytellers or as people who are interested in finding out people's stories, I think that's the thing that I'm most inspired by today is, who will have the next great K-pop story? K-pop is here. It's definitely here. I think Twice just finished a U.S. stadium tour. Jungkook's flying to the U.S. for his single. K-pop has truly arrived. But I think in terms of great artists being able to connect in a larger way, I'm really, really curious to know who is going to sort of have that next story and be able to sort of show something larger than just, that Korean music is here once again. I don't know exactly what a lot of these groups' stories are in terms of, if you are the next boy band to come out. I just really want to encourage, whether that's the artist teams, the artists themselves, the songwriters, producers, whoever it might be, the PRs, just really lean into what makes these artists special. And it's something I always try to do with my articles and my writing, but right. I think I really would love to just see, the industry itself just continue to find, new ways to just show itself and be vulnerable and connect with more people beyond just, just the amazing performances, songs, and
right, of course,
stages.
Just to share another sincere story then.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Jeff, Benjamin, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. See you same time tomorrow. That is Wednesday.